Welcome, Eva.
Thank you.
Maybe you could just, before we begin, just tell us a little something about your background and the research you've been involved in over the years.
Well, I've been practicing mind-body medicine for close to 10 years with now called the Benson Henry Institute for Mind-Body Medicine at the Massachusetts General Hospital. That used to be called the MindBody Medical Institute, founded by Dr. Herbert Benson. So I've been studying mind-body medicine and techniques for a long time, and I also was an internist for 5 years working in primary care medicine. I left that on account of stress, and also because I wanted to find other modalities to help the healing process, and I didn't feel that the traditional Western medical practice was enough. And so I wanted to learn and incorporate the Eastern philosophies into my work.
So Dr. Benson really was one of the founders of the field, coining the term relaxation response.
That's right. That's right. Over 30 years ago, he found that with elicitation of the relaxation response, which is akin to any form of meditation, the mind and body would resume a natural state of quiet, thereby decreasing blood pressure, metabolic rate, heart rate, and other parameters that can go overboard with stress and cause health problems.
Right. So this is basically scientifically proving and bringing into the mainstream, you know, medicine that's being used in India, China, throughout the East, traditions of meditation and Qigong, similar, but actually proving it at the center.
That's right. It's making it quantifiable, and it's bringing it into the hands of people that might be resistant to it.
Yeah. Why do you think that, you know, the pace of life is become so stressful?
Well, I think, you know, we have to think about the technology. We have to think about demands that have been going on. We have to remember that we don't have the kind of life that we used to have, in that we have all these things like cell phones and computers and all these things that have made our life easy, but also have made us accessible to everybody.
Yeah, and there's
no time out.
That's right, no time out. Plus the idea of, you know, unfortunately for postal workers, there's actually a term now for violent workplace rage, and that's going postal. But the idea that growing psychological demands, job insecurity, having to work longer hours, so pace of life and information is really whipping along at a fast pace. So what's happening in our bodies when we probably most of us have experienced overwhelm of some kind or another? What's happening physiologically in our bodies, and why, do you think?
Well, in order to really actually understand the idea of overwhelm, you have to understand the idea of stress.
Yeah.
Because stress is in itself, on its own, for a short period, is not bad. It's actually necessary and beneficial for life. So it actually, you know, and stress comes in so many different forms. To get to the place of overwhelm, you really want to understand what stress is, what the physiology of stress is, or stress physiology, the stress response, how when that gets out of whack, you can have problems. You can have health problems, psychological problems, what have you, life problems. And it all translates to that overwhelmed sensation of the stress being too much.
Yeah. So the idea then, the two nervous systems in the body, the parasympathetic and sympathetic. And the sympathetic is about making us more efficient when we're under a very stressful situation. So the idea of going out and killing your evening meal on the savannas of ancient Africa, dragging it back, you know, having the stress of that in the sympathetic nervous system to make us more efficient, and then dragging it back to the village, having a nice meal with family and friends, a good night's sleep. That's where the parasympathetic kicks in.
That's right.
So the idea of making us more efficient, can you tell us a little bit about that under stress, the idea of adrenaline and noradrenaline,
well, again,
short muscle fiber?
If you look at the stress response, what happens is the brain is taking in signals all the time. And as it assesses these signals, it says, is this challenging? Is this not challenging? Do I have the ability to handle this challenge? And have I seen this challenge before? Because if I've seen it before, I'm going to do what I did the last time, because we're efficient systems.
Yeah.
So this includes, you know, when you're born, you know nothing. But you learn eventually how to walk, how to talk, or communicate. But all of those things were stress. Walking was stressful. But then you learned how to do it, and now you know how to do it, and you can enact those same muscle fibers, those same learned experiences to be able to enact whatever you need to do the next time around. So that's how we are efficient that way.
Yeah.
So we learn from experiences. And so when the physiology of the stress response is set off, we have adrenaline and cortisol and other neuropeptides and hormones that are released that allow the physical changes to occur. one of which is the adrenaline keeps us hyper alert and hyper aroused. So we're vigilant,
So that's the
we're
idea,
aware.
vigilant on the horizon
That's
for
right.
hunting
for
the prey.
anything.
Right.
For anything that's going to be a challenge to my survival and well-being. Okay. Then we have, so we're not going to sleep. Okay, it's not a good time, for instance, if I'm being chased by this wild, angry animal, it's not a good time for me to forage for food.
Or a wild, angry boss. The
Or
body
anything.
knows no difference between the
right.
two,
Well,
right?
the mind does not distinguish between physical and psychological stress. It's
Right.
all just a challenge to my well-being.
Right.
So it doesn't matter. So every time I'm being challenged, let's say if I'm stuck in Boston traffic and I'm getting upset, my mind is thinking it's a lion.
We know that being under stress is bad. What can people do? What's some of the simplest tools that we can talk about that will help people turn that around, switch that off?
The mind-body techniques, there's external interventions that play a role. Like I said, acupuncture, medication, herbs, what have you, because there is a physiological process that's underway
Right.
that needs to be deactivated. So those things absolutely play a role in what can be done for stress response regulation.
So if
But the
most
other
people,
piece
if
of
most people take stock of their lives and they say, absolutely, right now I am under stress.
That's right.
I can do something about it.
That's
and what they
right.
can do, they can choose a number of different
That's
ways
right.
of handling it.
And then there's the piece of what they can do for themselves, and
Right.
that's the self-care piece. That's the mind-body piece.
I had heard of a study out of the Deaconess MindBody Institute that was around high blood pressure, and it was 80% of patients who underwent 20 minutes of progressive relaxation from head to toe, methodically moving through the body, 20 minutes a day, were able to reduce blood pressure by 80%, and
That's right.
18% of that 80% were able to come off of blood pressure medication completely.
That's right. And
That's a
those-
phenomenal,
that's
I
right.
mean, if that was a drug, Wall Street would really like that drug.
And it's cheap and has no side
That's
effects.
right, and you don't have to pay.
No co-pays. And the beautiful thing about it is that it's not just blood pressure.
Right.
That's the beauty. The
There was
MindBody
another
Medical
one I
Institute has done
remember
research
was-
for 30 years on all
Could you
this.
tell us about the infertility one too? And there was
They've
infertility
increased
and
fertility.
PMS.
Fertility has increased up to 50%.
50%.
They have increased. They have reduced pain, reduced fatigue, improved sleep, off medications. You name it, the study has been done.
Just simply from a progressive relaxation response, relaxing through the body,
That's right.
taking 20 minutes a day.
That's right.
That's an astounding result. I mean, if you came out with a drug and you said to somebody, okay, this drug will increase your fertility by 50%.
Right.
Will lower your blood pressure, will, reduce PMS. I mean, that would be a phenomenal success. Thanks very much
Thank
for
you.
joining us today. It's been illuminating, so thanks very much.
Thank you.
So I want to thank you for joining us, and we hope that you've learned something about a non-drug, non-surgical option to handle stress, to increase your health and well-being and of those around you. And from myself, Geoff Darcy, and Dr. Eva Selhub, medical doctor specializing in mind-body medicine at the Darcy Wellness Clinic, we wish you and your loved ones health and wellness.